Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Waypoint. Today we are playing World of Warcraft. We're taking a quick break from our Guild Wars 2 Weekly Waypoint run to do some delves in World of Warcraft, mostly because we're going to be talking a lot about World of Warcraft in this episode, and I just thought it would be a little bit weird if we spent that much time talking about WoW and so little time talking about Guild Wars 2 while playing Guild Wars 2. Now, a quick disclaimer, because I know how people can be, but I am a very casual player these days in terms of PvE content. Delves is pretty much my limit, and I don't like finish the Delver's Journey or anything like that. I don't push super high difficulty delves or anything like that. So yeah, my gameplay might not be optimal, might not be efficient. Hell, I've got the artifact cloak on my bar. The artifact cloak does nothing on a bar. I just thought you might need it to phase shift, and I've since realised you don't need it to phase shift. It's not a thing you click to phase shift, but I can't remember what I replaced it with, so I haven't bothered to find out and get rid of it yet. That's the kind of WoW player I am these days, so with that disclaimer out of the way, let's go on ahead. We will have things other than World of Warcraft to talk about today, but we are going to open with the main topic, which is World of Warcraft Midnight got announced at Gamescom in bits and bobs and dribs and drabs, and a weird interview over here revealing something, and a weird graphic on an Instagram reel over here revealing another thing. It's been a bit of a mess. Honestly, in terms of a production, this is probably the worst expansion reveal we've ever had, and I think that's partially down to the fact that they decided to do it at Gamescom and not all in one big panel like they did with Legion, but spread out across several days, which we're not used to. But I also think, obviously I don't know what's going on behind the scenes at Blizzard, but there have been rumblings about them firing the previous social media team and then outsourcing the job to someone else. So that's probably not helped. But I'm not here to talk about the way the expansion was revealed. I'm here to talk about the expansion reveal itself. Or I guess the expansion itself. Now, if you've seen the video I put out this week where I went back and rewatched every single WoW CGI cinematic trailer and ranked them all according to my own subjective will, you may already have an idea as to how I felt about the cinematic. It's easily my favourite modern WoW cinematic. And there's discourse. I know there's discourse. I frankly don't care about the discourse. If you want to hear me gush about that cinematic in detail, you can just scrub ahead in that video to that point, or you can watch the entire video if you like. I'm not going to stop you from doing that. It's kind of a video I've wanted to make for a very long time. It was very fun to do so. But yes, I've watched the cinematic about 7 or 8 times by now, just because it's so hype, with the Blood Elves coming out of a sunwell like the Rising Dawn. Sorry, not the Blood Elves, the Army of the Light. And then you got, I love with Xalatath's entrance as well, as she rises up from the ground and the music goes... Stupid sexy Lorfama. You cannot even break one elf. So good. So good. And of course, to talk a little bit more about the expansion itself, like the stuff we learned in the features overview trailer and the panels which came afterwards, I think it's shaping up to be a pretty good looking expansion. Very excited to revisit Eversong Woods. Zulaman looks like a pretty fun zone too, and very, quite unique aesthetic as well in terms of, just a flavour for a zone. I know it's a troll zone, but it's almost kind of like a haunted troll zone, if you know what I mean. I like the colour of the grass, let's put it that way. Very interested in Harandar, and I should be really excited about the Voidstorm, because it's the kind of zone I really like in theory in World of Warcraft. It's like a cosmic zone, we're going to space, it's going to have big lore implications, so on and so forth, but I don't know, I'm going to have to see the execution of that zone, because in my mind it seems more like a Maw zone than it does like any other standard zone. I had issues with 11.2, which we won't go over again, but it rubbed me the wrong way, and honestly I kind of have completely lost faith in Blizzard's storytelling, at least in-game storytelling, which is probably something I should have lost faith in years ago, I know. But as I've kind of been discussing in recent weeks, I'm realising I'm more of like a player who enjoys, the system updates and the kind of events that they do. Most of all, I like having an account where I build a wardrobe of transmog and all this stuff. I care more about that kind of evergreen stuff now than I do about content drops with new patch zones and storylines and stuff, just because those don't seem to do it for me as much these days as they used to. And I think it must be a me thing, because a lot of people seem to have really enjoyed 11.2 in ways that I didn't. And so does that extend to expansion drops? I don't think so, not as much. I think I'm still very excited to quest through the 4 zones, especially since it sounds like they're also doing like a questing branching path where you run off with Arator to do some stuff in the old world, which I think is something that they should explore more in their leveling campaigns. I think that's a really good idea. That's something that has me very excited. Playable Haranir, not so much, just because I already have a ton of Night Elves, and I have my Nightborn, and I have my Void Elves. I already have all my elves, and these are troll-looking elves, and I don't know, they just... Maybe when I see them in game I'll change my mind. It does look like they have some fun customizations from what we've been shown, but I just kind of feel like the other problem as well is like they're obviously... You probably play Druid or Hunter, right? And I've made so many characters now, and I've played so many characters, I've kind of run out of DPS classes to play and DPS specs to play without doubling up, and it bothers me when I double up because it feels like I'm making an older character redundant in some way. Maybe that's just something I need to get over. However, I've not really dipped my toe into Survival Hunter. I do have a character for it, but I've not fully leveled him ever, so maybe I'll make a Survival Hunter Haranir. That sounds like a pretty fun combination. Also quite excited about the Void Demon Hunter spec, which, I was kind of hoping we would get an entire new class, but when I come to think about it, like, if we got a new class with a DPS spec and a tank spec and a healer spec, I would only ever play the DPS spec, right? So I should probably just be as excited for that as I would have been if it was a new class, because I'm probably going to make a Void Elf Demon Hunter for it, because why not go all in? It does kind of depend on how goofy they look. They looked pretty goofy in the trailer, and it looked like they still had some green fell scars and green fell burning eyes, and if I have to have, like, green fell stuff on my Void Elf Void Demon Hunter, I'm not going to be too happy, but I'll probably make a Void Elf. That being said, as I've mentioned, I don't really do tanking or healing, so I'm mostly a DPS spec Andy, right? And I already have 2 Demon Hunters, so they're both Havoc Demon Hunters. And one of them is a kind of purple-themed Demon Hunter. He has the purple scars, he has kind of like dark purplish, bluish hair, and he has purple warglaives and just purple transmog, because I like the colour purple. So it would make sense to turn him into the Devourer Demon Hunter spec. However, I do just kind of really want to have a Void Elf Demon Hunter Void spec, super voidy boy, so I guess that's probably what I'll do. Me and Reese were joking the other day about the idea of Illidan returning to Azeroth at some point and seeing all the Devourer Void Elf Demon Hunters, and just going, "You took the enemy's abilities and made it your own to fight them? I'm so proud. I taught you well." Not my best Illidan impression, but it's 10:30, give me a break. What else to talk about with Midnight? Housing? I guess that's a thing. Incredibly excited for housing, obviously. I watched some of the Creator Clash, and I checked out, if you weren't aware, they have kind of a Google Street View housing preview in Battle.net at the minute, or at least they did at the time of recording. I don't know when they're going to get rid of that. And it looks incredible. Like, houses can be so big inside. It's crazy. And, it's the kind of thing where you wander around the space and you're like, I want to live here. And that, I feel like, is exactly what the devs were aiming for, and exactly what you want out of a housing system. You want that fantasy of, like, crafting a place where you would like to live. I do have some concerns about ultimately how much time am I going to spend with it. I feel like I'm going to get to a point with my house where I feel like it's done, and then I won't really spend much time there, because when it's done, then what are you going to do? You're just going to sit and look at it. But I know there's the Endeavors system, and they'll constantly release new assets, and you'll probably be prompted to, like, oh, I want to make a new room with this kind of style of stuff that's just been released. Me personally, I do want to kind of try and make a room for, like, each of some of my more prominent characters, so like a Lightforged Draenei room, and like a Freaking probably Void Elf Demon Hunter room, right, with like void based stuff in it. I don't know how viable that's going to be with the assets that it's going to launch with, but obviously we know it's going to grow over time. So yeah, I just want to have a big den with just bedrooms for all of my alts. Now, I've never really managed to stick with the idea of a Horde main. I don't really have any Horde character that I've sunk all that much time into. The closest is probably Zaveris, who was my Blood Elf Demon Hunter that I used to play through the Horde stuff in Battle for Azeroth. But she's sitting at level 50 nowadays. I haven't really logged into her since Battle for Azeroth. So I have rolled a Blood Elf Fire Mage. Again, I have a Fire Mage, but whatever, we're not going to worry about that. And at the minute, I'm just leisurely strolling through Eversong Woods as it currently exists in the game, and reading all the quest text and having the background music up as high as it'll go and just soaking up the experience. And I think I'll take him through Ghostlands and then probably some, like, relevant zones nearby as well for leveling. And then maybe he'll be my Horde main. I still kind of want an Orc Warrior, like a classic, like, Berserker, axe in each hand Orc Warrior as like a Horde main, right? But I don't know, man. I've got so many warriors, I don't know if I can do another. Let's see, out of my 59 current characters, 11 of them are warriors. Funnily enough, one of my rarest classes to roll is Druid, because maybe it's just because I main Druid and have main Druid for years, but A, I can't get into Feral, I just can't, I've tried so many times, and B, it just feels wrong to play balance again on another character. I don't know. It's just not right. Anything else, Midnight? The prey system looks kind of fun. I guess I'll mess with that. I can't see myself loving it. I do quite like the new announcements of changes to Transmog. When I saw Transmog 2.0 as a headline, I was like, Transmog doesn't need a 2.0. It's perfect. And then the second I saw what it was, I went, oh yeah. Yeah, we are missing that. Like, Final Fantasy XIV has glamour plates, which is similar, right? They don't have a situational thing. So that's a cool one-up on Final Fantasy XIV, I guess. But Guild Wars 2 are getting a similar thing as well. And we are quite overdue the ability to transmog our head slot instead of our head item, for instance. I don't know, I was looking at, what kind of casual clothing could I make for Kritigri for his housing attire? And I think that is something that they are sorely lacking in the game at the minute. I hope that they introduce a bunch more civilian-style clothing. They kind of have, I know in Undermine they had some stuff, but a lot of it, like Trading Post, feels very, I don't know, I've never liked the more casual Trading Post items, because, like, at the minute they've got these sweatsuits, but, like, they're so knitted together, and, like, the seams are giant and massive, and they just look like Poundland gear, if that makes sense. I want them to go to Final Fantasy XIV route, how many times has a WoW player said that in the last few years, and start investing in, like, some real cool, just casual wear outfit transmogs to go along with housing. But yeah, I do like the idea of having different transmog gear for, like, raid gear, and dungeon gear, delve gear, outdoor world gear. I do have a few sets that I quite like, as you've probably seen me swap through them over the years on Kritigri, but because of transmog costs I don't swap between them actively too often, so that would be a fun way to see them more often. Oh, also we got some Legion Remix, kind of like, it hit the PTR, I think, and it does look really good. I'm very excited for Legion Remix. See, I'm more excited for, like, Legion Remix and housing update and stuff like that than I am for, like, 0.1, 0.2 story content. You know what I mean? That's just where I'm at with WoW. We're throwing a housing update in there is kind of cheating. I think people who haven't played since the Burning Crusade will probably be back for that. Also, please enjoy my first time running through this new delve. This is, if you're not aware, a new delve for 11.2, and I had no idea how to get around. Okay, enough World of Warcraft. Hi, people who clicked on the timestamp to jump ahead. Nice to see you. What else got announced at Gamescom that I'm interested in? Because I mentioned last week that I couldn't really think of anything that I was looking forward to seeing from Gamescom other than WoW. And to be honest, I never finished watching through the VOD of all the announcements. I usually love watching, like, you know, Game Awards and Gamescom and all that kind of stuff, Summer Games Fest presentations, E3 style presentations. I don't know if I'm just kind of like getting over that because of my growing distaste for the AAA games industry, or if it's just because it aired while I was at work probably, and there was so much WoW stuff that I just did not get time to watch the full Gamescom presentation. So there's every chance that there was something announced in the second half of Gamescom, which would interest me, and I'm just not aware of it yet. Although I like to think if it really would have grabbed my attention, I would probably have seen it by now. However, there was one game which captured my undivided attention, and that was Bubsy 4D. No, it wasn't. That was, oh my god, Bubsy's coming back. That's insane. I actually have been wanting to check out Bubsy 3D again for some time, because I did own Bubsy 3D as a kid, and I did play that game as a kid, and it is a trip. And while even as a kid I knew it was a bad game, and I didn't play much of it because it was just impossible to control and it was kind of an eyesore and a headache, there's also something about that weird, freakish, polygonal, overly colourful world that was enticing in its own way, and I want to revisit that. Obviously Bubsy 4D, I mean, I haven't looked too deep into it, probably not going to recreate that weird alien polygon world vibe, but hey, it's a new 3D platform and it's from the devs who made the Demon Surf and Demon Tides games. I did try the demo for, I think it's Demon Tides, the newer of those games, and it didn't really click with me, but I do think that they are a very talented developer, and I think it's going to be really funny to see Bubsy get an actual good game. I didn't intend to spend that long talking about Bubsy. There's another platformer on my mind, because they only bloody went and announced my most anticipated game of 2026, not counting I guess expansions to MMOs. And trust me, I'm not being silly, I'm not even kidding here. Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, I think that's the full title. This game was made for me. I can't wait for this game. I've consumed every bit of preview media there is for this game, and if you've followed me for a while, that might not surprise you, because I was equally as excited for LEGO Star Wars for Skywalker Saga, which I waited on for many years as it continued to be delayed. I really hope that doesn't happen to LEGO Batman. But if you're sat here thinking, it's just a LEGO game, dude, like, why are you so excited? Listen, what they've started doing with LEGO games is they've really started upgrading them into these much bigger, much more impressive experiences. If you haven't played LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, I mean, I won't lie, it lacks the charm of LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, like the original LEGO Star Wars games. But it also, in its own right, is a fantastic and really enjoyable collectathon 3D platformer. Like, it didn't quite live up to my expectations entirely, but it was still like an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 in my mind. If you are curious, my main gripe with the Skywalker Saga is just that individual missions didn't feel very good. I didn't really enjoy the individual missions. The open world stuff is fantastic, and there is a metric fuck ton of it. Anyway, looks like they're doing the same for the LEGO Batman series. There are 3 LEGO Batman games and a LEGO DC Supervillains game, and I am a big Batman fan. I still feel kind of weird saying I'm a big Batman fan, but it is true. It's kind of the same as Star Wars for me, in that it's so kind of like ingrained within our culture. It's such a popular thing that it almost feels weird to call yourself a big Star Wars fan or a big Batman fan, because it's almost taken as a given that if you are my personality type, you will probably be a big fan of these things. But honestly, the more I think about Batman, the more Batman media I consume, the more of a conscious Batman fan I become, if you know what I mean. It kind of took the reveal of this LEGO Batman game to make me realise just how much I like Batman. And the pitch for this game is that they are taking kind of the general multimedia story of Batman and tying it into one big cohesive story, starting from his early years to his latest years. So I've seen Red Hood, so we've got some comic kind of New 52 elements in there of his early years. There's lots of movie references, and obviously this is going to be like a comprehensive, like, collect every Batman outfit, collect every Batmobile there's ever been kind of a thing. And they're doing, I assume, actually I don't know this, I might about to be outing myself as a fake gamer for having seen all this preview content and not knowing this for a fact, but one would assume that there's going to be this great big open world Gotham to explore, right? My big ask for this game is to include Batman Beyond in some way. Batman Beyond is something which I don't have that familiarity with, and I would love to have more familiarity with it, but I don't have access to the animated series in any real easy method. Like, it's not streaming anywhere in the UK, and I would love to watch through it because I've been so curious about it for so long. But I have seen the first few episodes at some time before, like a decade ago, and I am aware of the general premise, and I do love it. And I think it would be the perfect capstone for the story, because the whole premise of Batman Beyond is Bruce Wayne is an old man and someone else is taking over the mantle of Batman. And it would be cool to see that kind of woven into the other elements of the Batman story. I also wonder if they might go Dark Knight Returns. Anyway, it is important to remember this is a Lego Batman game, so it's not going to have a huge amount of story depth. It's mostly going to be goofs and gaffs. And I do appreciate that side of Batman as well. I do appreciate, cartoony Batman stories too. So I am so excited for this game. It is legitimately my most anticipated game of 2026. I will buy it at launch for full price. I am not joking. I know that in a few years it will go on sale for like a $5. I don't care. I will be happy just to be able to play it at launch at full price. Speaking of which, the Skywalker Saga is currently like £6 and I'm tempted to grab it on Steam, even though I already have it on Xbox and can download it on PC through my Xbox app. But it's achievements full. The only thing stopping me is I am not in a Star Wars mood, and I know there will be future sales where it will be on sale for the same price, so I'm not gonna bite. However, what I have bitten on is, remember when I said there are 3 Lego Batman games which already exist? Weirdly, I've never taken the time to fully play through or even really barely touch those Batman games despite owning them for so long. I've played like the first hour and a half of Batman 2 twice, Lego Batman 2, and I've played the opening level to Lego Batman like once. So I am now playing through Lego Batman, and there will be an accompanying YouTube video, much like there was when I played through Gex Enter the Gecko, and I am having the time of my life. Okay, that might be overstating it just a little bit, but I am having such a good time playing this old Lego Star Wars, like fucking hell, Lego Batman game. And one of the reasons I love it so much is because it reminds me of the old Lego Star Wars game. That's where that goof came from. So yeah, I'm on a bit of a Batman hyperfixation right now. I'm also playing through Batman the Telltale series, which is another Batman game I've owned for many years and never launched. I grabbed all the DLC for Lego Batman 3 and DC Supervillains because it was like a couple of quid each because it's on sale. And I'm not currently reading any Batman comics, but I am reading Justice League comics in which Batman stars fairly often. Side note, the Scott Snyder run of Justice League comics from like 2018 or so has, in my opinion, a lot of the same issues with storytelling that World of Warcraft currently has. It's fun, and I'm enjoying it, but it's a little too steeped in its own lore, and it's not really telling a full coherent story because of it, and keeps reinventing its own lore, you know what I mean. They're not one-to-one issues, but they're similar. Oh, I did read The Batman Who Laughs recently, as kind of part of that Justice League kind of era, and it was fine, and I'm talking about like the 7-issue limited run series, not like the 1-issue thing to introduce the character. We struggled through that sentence, but we got there in the end. It was fine. I don't like a Joker that you can reason with and work with. And that is the Joker that Scott Snyder gave us, which is weird because he also gave us the New 52 Joker who cut off his own face, which is one of my favourite versions of Joker. So Scott Snyder has both delivered one of my favourite versions of Joker and one of my least favourite versions of Joker. Also in his Justice League run, I don't love a Joker that works with Lex Luthor and the League of Villains and has kind of like, oh, the Batman Who Laughs is evil, we shouldn't be working with him. It's like, No, I like my Joker to be a little bit more unknowable than that. Anyway, can you tell? Can you tell the Batman hyperfixation is real? Oh, the Batman Who Laughs is going to be in fucking Lego Batman, isn't he? Oh god. He's not a bad character. To give you a incredibly brief summary of my overall thoughts of Scott Snyder as a writer, I think, in comics, he comes up with really good premises. I really love the premise of the Batman Who Laughs and the design of the character. Solid premise. It's the same with Dark Knight's Metal. Solid premise, really interesting idea, and then it just kind of putters out from like the back half. They're still worth a read though. That's just my opinion anyway. I'm just gonna have a quick gander at like Gamescom announcements to see if there's anything else I want to talk about before the end of the video. Oh, I should probably mention Hollow Knight Silk Song. That finally got a release date, and it got a Jason Schreier article, which was actually positive, talking about how the devs have just been ignoring the internet and just vibing for the last 6 or 7 years making the game, and I love that for them. It's another reminder that the reality that the internet kind of puts forward a lot of the time just kind of doesn't exist. Turns out everything was fine, Team Cherry were just having fun, and while I've never finished Hollow Knight, and I've never been crazy about Silksong, I've never really cared, I do kind of care now reading that story, just because I really like that that's the story behind the development of that game. I've been playing a lot of Dead Cells recently. I've never really fully finished a Metroidvania, but that's a really fun Metroidvania roguelike. I never even got to talking about how I'm kind of in a roguelike mood at the minute, but maybe another time. I'm not seeing too much here. That Project Motor racing game looks pretty good. I've been on the lookout for more Simcade. I don't know if it's Simcade, but it does say it's approachable to people new to the genre, so that kind of makes me think Simcade, or optionally Simcade, so maybe. Enshrouded is getting swimming. Moonlighter 2 exists. Yeah, no, I don't think there's too much else to really grab my attention. Again, like I say, AAA gaming is losing its hold on me. I think it's losing its hold on a lot of people, and like I said, it's those indie games which are standing out to me more. I guess that's what happens when a mega corporation buys up a bunch of developers and then lays them off and cancels all their games, huh? I guess I don't know if it was strictly part of Gamescom, but one AAA game, if you could call it that. But I am looking forward to, as well, coming up in the next few months, is Pokemon Legends ZA. Finished Pokemon Violet recently, as you may have seen via the video, and yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get the DLC or just skip that and go straight to ZA. Running on limited funds, so that's probably going to be an either or decision. But either way, that's going to do it for this episode of A Weekly Waypoint. I did just accidentally swallow some mouthwash, so if you don't hear from me next week, just assume I died. If you liked this episode and want to help this small channel grow, I would very much appreciate you throwing a like on the video. You can always let me know what your favourite Gamescom game was down below that you can't believe that I didn't mention. And that's all the call to engagement I'm doing today. Catch you in the next one.